segment that we always look forward to each and every Thursday. Now, today's conversation is interesting. We are talking about identity crisis. And while we have done this topic before, today our main focus is how does you having an identity crisis, for instance, affect your relationships, how you show up as a mother, how you show up as a parent, how you show up as a spouse, as a, as a wife or a husband. So we are going to be diving deep into the topic, but also relating it directly to relationships and the people around us. And helping us with this amazing conversation, we have the beautiful Jane Ngatia, who is getting younger and finer each and every single day. She says she's keeping up with the Gen Zs, but anyway, Jane Ngatia, karibu sana once again.
Thank you.
And for those who are seeing you for the first time, please do tell us more about you.
Okay, thank you. First, I'm glad that I'm here to be able to share information and tell others what we know, and we help each other to build society. So I'm Jane Ngatia, and I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. I deal with adults, with young people, the youth, the elderly, and back to the children. So that's what I do. I love my job, and I'm proud also to be Kenyan. Yes, and to be on Hope TV.
Yes.
You are the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor, as always, to have you on set as you share your wisdom. Did you ever, or rather, I remember when we hosted you the last time, the passion that you have for what you do. What really triggered that?
Wow, beautiful. I would say that, first of all, you have noted that, and I have also verbalized it. Yes, what drives me is the will or the wish to see, positive changes in people. Particularly if I confine it to my profession, I want to see that there is behavior change. People are moving from worse to better, and they're eventually making it. Because ideally what we need in this life is to live better lives, lives that are satisfying, lives that are able also to glorify God, ultimately who is our creator. But I also love seeing people doing better. Naturally, I think I'm a people person. Yes, and that drives me a lot. And I feel I should do everything possible. But I also know that I have a purpose. I mean, I should live a purposeful life. God created me with a good reason, a reason to make the world a better place. And having realized that, I would like to use all my energy, my knowledge, and every opportunity to make lives better. And now you can see I'm here for the same reason.
Awesome.
And we are glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm tempted to ask this question, although it's not in this list that we have here. But, what was your own journey in identity finding, like knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, knowing the path that actually God has crafted for you? Because being able to now specialize and say, this is my area, this is who I want to be, this is what I want to do, I believe it comes with a lot of finding self, understanding who you are and what you stand for, and also your purpose. So what was that journey like?
Wow, a good question there, and I think a very important question as well, because it helps us to open our books. Allow me now to open my own book. I first of all, I look back and I see very many things that happened in my life right from childhood. There are many things that would determine how we discover ourselves, because it's a journey of self-discovery. And when it becomes a crisis, it is part of that journey. So discovering myself, getting to understand who I am, had a lot to do with the parenting. The kind of parents that I have. They are now late, but thank God they showed me the that kind of discipline, being helped to know how to live with people, how to do things better, how to engage myself, and also realizing my own potential, so that I'm able to tell, I'm able to do this and not the other. Immediately, probably my mother asked me, remove that cap, put it somewhere else. I knew I have capacity to do that because I did exactly that and I was able to follow instructions. That's part of one discovering themselves and knowing who they are. Obviously, we start by knowing our name, each one of us. That's part of identity and also discovering one's potential and one's ability, how to relate with the people. So I know what annoys me. I know what makes me upset, you know, when I go to a certain place or I relate with certain people. So it is quite a journey because it has something to do with also the physical development. We actually call it developmental milestones. So there's what I discover in every stage. When it comes to I needed to move from one level of school to another. It is still learning about my identity and knowing that now I've grown up and I'm able to do this or that for people or the community. And even at the time of, let's call it the youthful time, which is usually a critical time. And no wonder then we call it a crisis time, identity crisis time. It's because the person is kind of crossing the bridge. And so I crossed the bridge. I had my own crisis. The idea of parents saying, don't go there. Don't relate with so-and-so. Don't come home after this time. And of course, a little rebellion here and there and suffering for it. It's part of identity crisis. Identity, you know, finding identity. And eventually getting married, knowing how to kind of select the person I would like to live with. And that is also part of the identity and also trying to understand the other person. And eventually when it comes to career, we know that probably by now I can do this better, my passion is in this, like we have already cited issues of passion. And even up to now, at my age, in my 60s, I'm still going through discovery of 1, 2, 3 things, you know, that I know that now I can do this at this age. This is the kind of information that other people, you know, need and require. So that is part of identity. In other words, the issue of discovering oneself is a continuous journey. It never ends. But there is that time that we say it's very critical that the child or the youthful person is guided not to get lost into that crisis because it is possible. Their boat may sink and it's upon the society who have already gone through the bridge to help them hold their hand. And maybe that is an issue that may be coming up in our discussion. That is about my journey. It's long, but that is the short of it that I'm still on, even myself. And everyone, including yourselves, you still discover something every day about yourself. And that adds to your profile of your own identity. That's where we are. It's a good story. It's a good experience.
And she doesn't look like she's in her 60s. Let's just agree on that.
Honestly,
You know, also when Gen Zs give us a challenge, hey, we have to look like we have energy. Maybe not to run, but energy to support them, help them to know how to do things better, so that we have fewer risks in life. Because ideally we need to to reduce any risk that can actually affect and stop us from moving on.
And now talking about our topic this morning, navigating identity crisis. If you can help us now that you have interacted with different people going through different stages of life, how can we define identity crisis?
Wow, a good question there.
Beatrice here, Gigi here has this and that. How do we define it?
Identity crisis in itself is when the person is actually trying to navigate, to negotiate a lot of things, sorting out problems, trying to cross the bridge, as it were, realizing the bridge is like sinking. Where else do I pass through? Because when we a crisis, there is something that is actually kind of obstructing. There is something that is hindering the journey from continuing. So it's a time of crisis because there are too many things also to be sorted out. So again, with that developmental crisis, there are too many variables. I would call them variables that are involved, like there is the biological changes that happen in human being. You know, we are created with the kind of material that allow us to age. I mean, naturally we shall, because we are growing up, the brain age, the physical looks will also age, and what have you. Now, when we are trying to fight, because some things are not very desirable, like I don't want someone to tell me, oh, you didn't look old. I mean, how do you manage to do the stairs? I want someone who tells me, yeah, you look like you are aged, but you are managing the stairs. So that I'm not stuck in that thing of when I age, maybe I won't be able to get myself out of this seat where I am. You know, there is that which we want, and there is that which nature will actually bring across. Because things have to happen. There are also environmental things that change, and they create a crisis for us, because we may find ourselves in a kind of environment where we are not able to negotiate, or we have difficulties negotiating. We probably lack the capacity, or we lack the necessary resources to be able to jump over to the other side to go where we want. So in other words, there are always forces that will obstruct, humanly speaking, where we want to go next, and even the, you know, the development itself, and wanting to do things at a different time. So that can bring a mix of things, and that is where the crisis arises. Otherwise, identity and development is continuous, but it isn't a straight line. And because it's not a straight line, that's how the crisis begin. And some of them can be of different magnitude, can be very serious, can actually make us sit as opposed to standing up. But others will pass. I mean, we shall manage to fight the wave. Yes.
I mean, you've brought out something that I'd never thought about, you know, about the identity not being a straight line. Because I think, you know, you've mentioned in part that part of the crisis can be that you're expecting it to be a straight line, you know, whereby you want to get to this particular place, not acknowledging that it's actually a continuous process. But now I'm asking myself, then where does it begin? How do I know that I'm in this journey? How do I start my journey of knowing who I am and finding my identity?
Wow, a good question there. Full of good questions. Yes, it doesn't, this crisis, this identity, the journey of discovering oneself does not have something like a pap feeling, you know, now I've arrived, I am there. Because it's continuous and it's something that grows. Let's say, for example, at some point, I think I had a crisis because I wasn't sure that I would do those stairs like I used to do a while ago. When I was 50, I would do a little faster. Actually, in high school, I would do the relays, you know, the short runs in the field. And I would do several laps without really feeling it. I almost broke the records in my school. But then as time goes, I realize, wow, I'm not able to do it anymore. I want to run. I feel maybe there is a situation that makes me want to move faster, but I'm not able to do so, you know. So I realize now this is a crisis for me because I can no longer do it. And as we have already made an observation, it can never be a straight line because life is not meant to be so straight that everything works for us. So when we realize that there are things we wanted to do, we are not able to do, and we used to do them, it gives a kind of like sitting back like,
Yeah.
what has happened? What has gone wrong? Could I be unwell? Could I be sick or something? So there is that feeling of I'm being pulled back, but I want to move forward. But because that is how life is, that you have to get to a level, you will not actually know you are there.
Yeah.
Yes? When we celebrate our birthdays, it is a mark that something has changed. Over the 1 year, in most cases, we celebrate our birthdays. Something has changed, but we may not quite be able. Same birthday, same date of birth, but many things having changed along the way. So one indicator is that feeling of you can no longer, or you even cannot relate with certain people that probably you used to hang out with.
Yeah.
You can no longer. I used to drive even late at night when younger, but I realized, oh, I can't do anymore. And I keep thinking, what if I got a puncture? What if the car refuses? What if something happens at my age? How will I do it? I'm not as swift as I used to be. So those are some of the indicators that there's a crisis,
Yes.
but it is not stopping me from moving. It becomes so bad when a person is completely obstructed and they cannot see the way and they can't actually find their way. So one thing is we have to accept that life is a journey. We may not know the end of it, but our Creator has it in the roadmap. But we have to be able to live, we sometimes call it one day at a time. At least I've lived today, I've been able to come to Hope TV. I know this is something I've already negotiated. I didn't get an accident. I've managed in spite of waking up too early. You know, it's quite early.
It is.
It's also another thing that tells me it's no longer the same. So it can be a bad crisis that pushes somebody backwards. Probably if we talk about earlier in the age, it seems we are more swift, but it has more danger because we have so much that we want to do. Maybe when we talk about the youthful crisis, somebody actually called it adolescence crisis. That was a psychologist who had observed enough, and he himself went through it. His name is Erik Erikson. He was a great psychologist, and he talked about how he started discovering, after all, the father I have isn't my biological father, because he was growing up and maybe people would come around and say, you think that's your dad? That's not your dad. Just don't brag about it, about your dad. And he discovered, because people brought it to his awareness, he had never been told by his mother. And now he goes back to his mother and asks, who is my father? And his mother is like, what? So where is that coming from? So where are we? Who told you that? And it's like, now there's a crisis. Two people are in crisis. One is his mother. So crisis, identity crisis, has a way of pulling others into it. There's a tire factor somewhere. So, but all that can be sorted if that's the key thing. Self-awareness. I need to be aware, first of all, that I'm going through an identity crisis. It can come at different stages, and all of us, without exemption, will experience an identity crisis somewhere along the way. We hit the bump, we are not able to negotiate the corners, the bends, and there we are. And we can easily get back to the road, but that requires support as well.
As you have noted, Jane, it's not easy, even when you're dealing with it alone, in terms of this identity crisis. It's now even worse when now another person is involved. I'm driving at the dangers of identity crisis in relationships. So what are some of the effects of an identity crisis in a relationship? Could be a marriage setup.
Wow, beautiful. And had we even thought that a couple can be in identity crisis at the same time.
Ooh.
Yes, and that can be so horrible. And it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Now that we are talking about people who are relating,
Yes.
could be a relationship within a family setting,
Yeah.
or could be a relationship in workplace,
Yes.
could be a a relationship wherever else the person is. We don't live in isolation. We live in a community. Now that can be very tragic. I would like us to imagine a situation in a family setting where we have a mother, a father, a youthful person,
Yeah.
a youth adolescent, could even be a teenager, and we have a grandparent. That is a situation of identity crisis, because we have the young person relating with the parents can be quite a challenge.
Yes.
Because they are in a world of their own. And I think that's part of what we are seeing even in our situation currently in
Yes,
Kenya,
yes.
with the Gen Z, the protests and all that. These are people in separate worlds. They are trying to connect and understand what is going on. Now that's at a different relationship. But back to the family setting, you realize that this young person may become rebellious. Why are they rebellious? Because they want to be free. They feel like they are in a cage, and they want to free themselves out of this cage. They can't fight the door. There is this parent who think this is still a child.
Yeah.
You cannot come home after 7 p.m. Let me even take it earlier to 6 p.m. you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this child or this teenager or adolescent does not understand why they must be home so early. They want to hang out with their friends.
Yeah.
You see, there's already a strained relationship because the parent will see an outright rebellion. The young person sees someone who is trying to confine them. They are not able to quite have a conversation in that area, but a conversation will be encouraged. Now, this parent, most likely, a parent who has an adolescent or a teenager, most likely they are in their 40s or late 30s or even entering 50s, depending on how many children are on the lineup.
Yeah.
And this 50-year-old is in another world of identity crisis. They are now trying to think about the future because life seems like halfway done. You know, that's natural.
Yeah.
And they are thinking about the future. This person who is rebelling, how will they be in the future? I want to mold them. I want to do things. There's a kind of rush that things must be done. And they must be aligned. But now, assuming I'm in that 50 and I'm the one caught in that cage, kind of. We are in different cages, though.
Yeah.
I have probably my aging parent. When we are aging from, let's say, 70 plus, there's another crisis. Because it seems something is beckoning. We are to the traffic lights. We are not sure.
Yeah.
Do we move on? Do we move back?
Yes.
And a few people retreat. You can imagine reversing your car
yes.
in at the traffic lights, and there's traffic jam. What would happen?
The hooting.
Yes, the hooting.
Yeah,
And
the
by the way,
accident.
you could even cause an accident. You
Yes.
hit someone's car, and then there the story begins
Yes.
on a different slate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is like 3 people, 3 generations are in a crisis. And it gets horrible because relationships become kind of like broken down.
Yeah.
It can even get bad that there can be even physical fight, eruptions, and what have you. But even in the workplaces, it can be the same. I'm imagining I am the boss and I have the 20-year-olds working for me. Now that can affect the work relationship.
Definitely.
It can actually affect relationships, call it in the worshiping places, in the home, family background, or family yards, can cause broken relationships in the workplace, and actually everywhere. So this awareness is very important. I believe the viewer is able to get something here, and we can all be able to salvage the situation. Probably, if we talk about what are the remedies, I'm sure we'll give our people good tips.
Someone who I feel is actually in that phase and is going through an identity crisis, and it's clear that indeed they're going through an identity crisis. How can I begin to help them so that I'm not judging them, but I'm actually, understanding that this is just a season and it will pass?
Wow, that's a very good thing. In order to amend the bridges of relationships, it is very important to do one good thing that we normally are not able to do. Listening to that person. Listen to what they are saying. Try to get a feel of their world. We call it empathy. It's taking my shoe wearing and but you can feel where it pinches maybe. And you can tell, wow, now I understand where you are. Now I understand why things are different for you. Now I understand why you are flaring up. You wake up in another mood and what have you. Just tell me, what is it? Listening is a skill. Imagine listening can do magic. Yet we are not able to listen. It's a bit, ironical, because the assumption is we have 2 ears, so anyway, we hear. But the difference here is hearing and listening. We give attention to that person that we realize they are in crisis. We may not like it, even, that we have to sit and listen to all this trouble. We have to listen to the person. That is very important support. And that's why I've said it several times. It is important support. Find out, how does the person want to do their things? Because when we listen, most likely we make out sense out of what they are doing or what they are saying. So how would you like to do it? If, for instance, I told my teenager, okay, I don't have a teenager, they are bigger than that.
Wow.
If I ask them, don't come late, it's not good for you to come late. First of all, it's important because I know they are going through a crisis. I'm ahead of them. I try to explain why it is not safe for them to come late. So you see, there is also that bit of assisting the person with information, sharing accurate information that is not manipulated, that is not hearsay. Let them get the point. They may like it, they may take it, they may not. So sharing information, then I wait to understand why I have shared that information. I have asked the person to tell me where they need help, and they are not complying. Of course, that can be very frustrating. So I would also like to engage them, even if it were my spouse, engage them. Like once in a while, I ask my husband, okay, I thought we agreed, this is what we are doing. And then later when we are trying to do some evaluation, it's like, oh, I forgot. And it's like, oh, okay. You forgot such an important thing. Next time you forget where you parked your car. And nobody can help you because you are the only one who knows where you did. So that's a crisis in itself. And because I'm able to probably observe, I give them hints of how to use some reminders, so that next time you don't forget something very serious, very critical, like taking the wrong turn, like taking you because you are just used to this one. And by the way, he has taken wrong turn several times with me in the car. I know that I will not suffer for it. Yes. When I'm in Hope TV, I'm safe.
Definitely, you're safe.
And I'll be safe out there. So I try now to remind him as much as I can. Remember, today we are going on Mombasa Road. We are not going to River Road or
Yes,
some other
yes.
places, you know. So remember not to take that other turn that we always take. So what am I doing? I'm helping the person to feel they have not lost it, as opposed to what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
I thought you should know. So normally a bit of patience there is required. So we need to give support to one another to maintain a working relationship at marriage level, family level. Listen to this person, find out why they are not complying. Let them tell you how would they like to do it differently. If they don't want to come home at 7, is it okay then we agree on a different time that we can meet in the middle? 7:30 may probably not make a big difference. And if that's what they are comfortable with, let it be. But that does not mean I've given in.
No.
I mean that I'm the weaker one. I am also going through my own crisis, but we are trying to make things happen. What I'm trying to say is conversation. Conversation. Let's talk. Let's talk about it. Let's support each other. We are all on the same journey. Someday someone will be where I am now.
True.
And it is important that I hold their hand so they don't stumble the way I did, because maybe someone didn't also show me the way. So there is need for that support. Call it psychosocial support. It is important. It helps.
Briefly, if you can help someone who you are trying to help someone who is in an identity crisis. But at least whatever you have explained is someone who is willing and is accepting that, yes, I am in this crisis and all. But then, of course, we are human beings. There are those of us who will either in denial or they don't actually even realize that they are going through an identity crisis. How do you help them, as you said, without hurting their feelings?
Wow. That's a good one too. Yes, somebody who is unwilling and they are not even going to budge an inch, you know, yet you can see they are getting into obvious danger. That is important, that they are connected to someone else who can probably support them. That's why we have professional helpers. But if they are also not willing to see like a psychologist, like myself or others who are available, then it will be a question of they need to be warned. You know, if a person is completely not willing, let them be warned. We have warned you. We have even tried to get you external support or help. You still do not seem to. You know, there is a saying that says when a person is just losing their way, they never seem to get a friend along the way. You know, they don't seem to even want to listen to anyone. So there are always those few instances. Thank God they are the minority in the community who are not willing, who are willing to go that far, to go and hit a wall. And they are being told that's a hard wall. You can't drive over there. And they still want to go and force their way. So warning is important. Let the person be aware of the dangers that they are likely to encounter as they move in that direction. If they ever get, you know, out of it, well and good. If they get lost there and in the mix, then we did our job. And someone would say, I washed my hands out. Yes, because I did the best I could. Yes.
And I think the beauty of it is that sometimes at their lowest and when they are most broken, oftentimes when they rise up again is when actually the identity starts kicking in. Because for me, I feel that's more of my story. At a time when I was broken, confused, is when I was able to rise up and actually find who I was in those moments. So, you know, Gigi, you had asked a question before, you know, we started the interview, and you were asking which one is better, to be in an identity crisis when you are young or when you're older. And Miss Jane, you did mention that, I mean, when you are older, it's worse. When you're in your 50s, it's worse. But maybe let's talk now to the young people who are watching us this morning, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to be caught up in that. I don't want to be a parent who has an identity crisis or doesn't really have a sense of self-awareness. So how do we make sure that we are taking care of this issue when they are still young? What are some of the practical steps to help the young people, or if the young people are watching, for them to know, the pathways that they can walk on as they find themselves?
Wow. Very important observation there. First, to appreciate the young people. And when we talk about young people, we are referring to a person who does not have too many responsibilities. They are growing up, they are shaping their career, they are probably finishing college or some kind of training. They are trying to settle down, they have just got their first job. That's a youthful time.
Yeah.
Being young is gold, in my opinion. It is the best time. I mean, just feeling young and not too many people, not too many bills to pay, and not too much trouble. At least someone is still taking care, and someone is following up to see that we are safe. They are calling us, and are you okay? Like I like calling my daughters, those who don't live with me. Are you okay? How is job going? They feel there is somebody caring, as opposed to myself, where I don't remember when someone called me last and, oh, Jen Ngatia, I was just checking on you. How are you doing now that you are aging? Anyway, back to the young person. So this young person has also their crisis. They have their own identity crisis, because just like I went through there, they are also thinking about, how will my job turn out to be like? Will I keep this job or not? Will I get enough money to take care of my bills when time comes or not? What about a relationship? It will bother them a lot. Is this person genuine or not genuine? Remember, they haven't entered, into the world, but their feet are very close to stepping there. Now, for them, with the various identity crises, remember, they are also growing up in terms of biological changes and a little weight there, wanting to lose weight. It is disturbing them. For me, it is no longer an issue. And the looks, of course, I want to look good, and I'm doing so today. And I want to keep up. But there are a few things. Everybody have a basket full of their own issues. And for them, they need a lot of support. They need to be listened to. But also, this young person, they need to remember, somebody was sitting where they are sitting now. And they have moved on, and they can see. For example, their own parents, their own leaders, their own employers, and so on and so forth. So they can see other people who definitely were young one time. Maybe the challenge I would put across is, ask yourself, as a youthful person, how do you think that person managed to negotiate to be where they are? Is there some piece of advice that you can get from them? Would you take a moment to listen to them and find out, get curious about how did you get into such a successful career? Yes? How do you manage to keep yourself up even at that age? When the economic crisis hit, because they have always come and gone, actually they're not going completely, because they don't leave us at the same level. How did you manage? When the money was not enough, how did you work it out? Have you ever suffered a relationship breakup? And when it did, how did you negotiate that? Just looking up to someone who can even be a mentor. That's why we talk of mentorship. We need to be mentored to be able to make the next move and to be able to step forward, as opposed to moving backwards. Or getting stuck altogether. People get stuck in those crises, identity crisis, and that is probably the worst that can happen, because once time passes, for you to do the things you needed to do earlier, you are not expected to go back to them. Yes? If I needed to settle down with a family at a particular time, and I didn't, it becomes now even a bigger crisis. If I ought to have been working at a particular time and I didn't, I spent time on other things that were not consistent with my developmental stage, then I will have a problem because I may get stuck. And that is why it is probably easy to hear someone saying, if I were young again, I would go to school, do 5 degrees. They can't do. They are probably in their 80s. I mean, time has moved on. And if we are not sensitive about that, and we don't try to get from others who have been on the same road. If you are driving down a road, Gigi, and you know people have been driving on this road, and you are not sure, you would probably ask someone whom you are sure drove that same road and find out, how is that road like? Yes, the Google Maps may not give us everything about how many bumps we are likely to find, but you can get it firsthand from someone who has gone down that way, and they'll be able to tell you, avoid this, there's a sharp corner, avoid that one. That road is better than the other. And that is what the young people also need to do. Yes, they need to find their space. Our lives will not be exactly the same, the way we manage them. The crisis negotiation may not be exactly the same, but we have a kind of universal platform. The manual is not there even. So sometimes you may also have to come up with a script, but let the script be well guided so that we do not get stuck and we do not destroy ourselves in the process of those crises.
Our time is spent actually looking at the time, and so I know the director, unfortunately allow me to ask this one, because you had mentioned it at the beginning of our conversation about the young people needing guidance and all. So I'm looking now in terms of the family setup, and the parent who is supposed to offer that guidance, offer that counsel, is actually the one suffering the identity crisis. How then will this child be cushioned?
Wow, that is a critical one, and also very important. I would actually dare say very important. Yes, 2 people are in crisis, and actually that happens a lot. What I would suggest is this person who is older actually need to step down to a certain level. Let's say identity crisis may also come with tempers, and biologically something is also changing. And that's why also our emotional expressions will change. Somebody may shout when they are not actually required to do so. Another person may just go mute. You know, we call it selective mutism. They just go mute for no good reason. I mean, it's like, what has happened? What have I done to you? Now, I would suggest that the older person will always have the leeway to be able to calm down. They are in a better position, in my opinion, to calm down and control. They have controlled their emotions before. They have managed to get out of a certain space and step down to be able to do what I said, listening and trying to understand this one person. But that does not mean that will solve my crisis, because I'm only trying to help someone else, whereas I put mine in the parking lot. I still need to go back and sort myself out, and even talk to someone else. That is called information sharing. If I'm going through a situation, it is important to share with someone, hopefully a professional who can help. I know of a case where parents went for cancer. I mean, the child was referred for counseling, the youthful person, the teenager, the adolescent. And then according to the professional, actually parents also need to come in. They are also going through a crisis because this psychologist has discovered these are 2 people who are running parallel to each other. So that help is very important. First, find out where is it coming from, who can help, where do I go for that support. And that is very important, as opposed to sitting, raising voices. You know, you get to a level where the voice cannot go any higher. And that's when people decide to, no, I can also do something, sabotage. And that is not healthy for the family, is not healthy for any relationship.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. Thank you.
Powerful. And I love the aspect of seeking help, because indeed we can't do this on our own. I think the best takeaway has been, others have been on this journey and they have done it and they have conquered. So if I am to walk this journey the right way, then taking counsel is indeed a gem. And I think even you coming through here with your wisdom, with your experience, we are literally your children, I'm sure.
Yes, you are.
I am your daughter, literally.
You.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So we are glad to be gleaning from that wisdom, because we are also in a journey. We all are in a journey. So we've come to the end of the show, actually 4 minutes past 9, and it's time for us to conclude. But before we leave, maybe you can just let the people know how they can find you and, just how they can keep in touch.
Wow, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I said I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm more than willing to support people in different issues at different levels. I work for an institute called East Africa Institute of Professional Counseling. That's where I'm a consultant, and I also teach, and we help people. The office, I can be found in the city center of Nairobi, the capital city, in a building called Summit House, third floor, near Jivanji Gardens, and opposite Central Police Station. And well, if someone needed to make a call, I'm sure they can call you, and you can kindly connect them or connect us, so that we make this identity crisis issue less intense and more manageable for everybody. We need ourselves, we need everyone, we need Kenya, and we need to keep Kenya running and the international community.
All right.
Yes.
Mrs. Ngatia, thank you so very much for your time. Thank you for accepting our invitation as well. Even the sacrifice, waking up so early so that you are here on time, we don't also take it for granted. So thank you so much. May God refresh you, just like you have refreshed our viewer this morning. Thank you so much. And thank you as well for tuning in to the show this morning. And may God bless you as well. Hoping that you have learned a thing or two about navigating the identity crisis. From me, George Gishoro, it is to wish you a fruitful and a blessed day ahead. Kwaheri for now.
Yes, absolutely. And we've come to the end of the show. I'm so glad I've gotten to learn so much, and I know that you too have been able to get a thing or two. And we have been live on YouTube, so that means this link is there. It is timeless. You can share it, you can listen to it, you can, forward it to people that may actually need it. And I believe we need to continue to spread this gospel so that many will hear it and be saved and give glory to God. So we've come to the end, but tomorrow tutakuwa pamoja on Beyond the Melody. My name is Beatrice Nudi. Have yourself a lovely day ahead.